my camera seems to not want to go higher. So, get a little different view of me today. Okay, TUF 6, episode 12, finale. We had the two semi-final fights. And we go right into the drama, which was, of course, Matt Arroyo pulling out, and the subsequent discussions about replacing him. Okay, there's some conflicting reports that say Matt may not even had a cracked rib. Some people suggesting he faked the injury because he was afraid of Danzig. I'm not going to say he did or he didn't. I don't think he did. He didn't. It didn't seem to be the guy to do that. But a cracked rib can really mess with you, especially when you're fighting a guy like Danzig. So, moving on. We had of course, they called in 4 guys to try to replace him. Those 4 were, of course, the 2 Johns, Troy Mandalones, and Richie Hightower. Only John Koloski, who's already lost to Danzig. Pulling a bit of a Ross Pointon, coming in going, "Gentlemen, I want to fight back Danzig." It sucks a little bit because we got to see the fight again. I would have preferred they brought back Ben Saunders, but we knew he had a really messed up nose. And he was not 100% in any extent of the imagination. We'll shout down to Richie Hightower for talking all that shit about Danzig's bark being bigger than his bite. Well, we know Richie's is bigger because, I mean, I know he tried to make it about weight and everything, but it was obvious he didn't want that fight. Mandalones and Koppenheimer get a little bit of a pass just because they didn't talk so much shit about Danzig as Hightower did. And mind you, it's brought on by the fact that Danzig seemed to take every little, frustration he had in the house out on Hightower or Blake Bowman. So, there you go. Okay, so Koloski comes back. He looks a little better in the fight. Looks more calm, but he still doesn't overly commit. I watched a couple of his other fights, and he just still didn't seem like himself on the show, outside of, well, kind of the Billy Miles fight, but that was short. But still, it was a bit disappointing to see because Koloski seems like a really good guy and everything, which was a little, rare on this season because seems to be one of the few guys that didn't really have like one of those definingly jackass moments, like Mac Danzig. George Soteropoulos had his, Billy Miles had his, crack under the pressure and a couple of moments, but still, you know what I mean. Sorry, I got like a really dry throat today for some reason. Okay. So the fight basically goes, Koloski landing some good kicks, but, he's a little slow because it looks like he's going for the home run, which, is not the way to do it. You gotta pick your shots. Danzig doesn't really do terribly great in the striking. I mean, I'd say the round was very, very close until it went to the ground. Koloski made a couple of errors. I mean, his jiu-jitsu needs some work. His wrestling seems to also need some work, which actually I thought would be a strong point on the show, but his stand-up, I think he has the stand-up tools watching him in practice and stuff. He just needs to learn to apply them to the fight. He's one of those guys who seems to be a bit more of a beast in the gym than he is in the ring, and that's not so great. So moving on, we have Tommy Spear and George Soteropoulos. Kind of like every matchup for Spear, it's technique versus strength, and kind of. Soteropoulos, he looked like he was out of his game. I mean, Tommy Spear's hand speed and, the fact that he could box kind of seemed to put him off. He didn't really seem to be himself, his confident, cocky self. There's also a rumor he didn't know he had 5 minutes after he got poked in the eye, which, of course, I do think affected the fight. Not so much in the fact that Tommy wouldn't have won without the eye poke, but I think it did set up the KO with, being a little bit blind in the one eye. I think that if George had made it to the end of the first round and gotten back to the corner, they might have been able to instill a game plan on him to kind of account for the fact that Tommy isn't as crappy on the feet as they were perhaps led to believe. That he does have some rudimentary boxing. He's not a great boxer by any means, but he has some well-rounded skills. But he gets knocked out. Pretty good KO. A couple shots on the ground, pulled him off. It was a pretty good fight overall, I think. We get Tommy in the final against Mac. What do I think about this? It's kind of like every one of Tommy's fights. He's the stronger guy. He's been the much stronger guy in every fight, except for perhaps against Ben Saunders. He will be a bigger, stronger guy than Danzig. I mean, Danzig's this average size 155er. Tommy's a big 170er. I mean, it's what I've been saying this whole time. Danzig is the most technically skilled fighter in the house, but I favored Sotiropoulos to take it because his skills were somewhat near the same level, and he was a legit, welterweight-sized fighter, something Danzig isn't. So we got that. I'm going to throw a prediction out. I'm going to say that with training with Matt Hughes' team, Tommy Spear can pull this off. This is possibly the first time I'm predicting Tommy Spear to... No, I picked it and win over War Machine. But Tommy, I mean, he's like a mold of clay. You can really, or a lump of clay. You can mold him into a very good fighter. I mean, he's got a lot of the things that you can't teach. He's got dominating strength. He's got great mentality for the game. He's got a good heart. He's very good at taking... He seems to have a very high pain threshold. I mean, all of this kind of equals... These are the rudimentary things that you can't teach. The skills that he needs can be taught to him, and with Matt Hughes' team, I think he can learn a few things. I think in the end, though, Danzig is a better fighter. It just comes down to that size difference, and I think right now, if they were... Well, not right now, obviously, if they were a fight, because this is off the show. But had they fought on the show, I would have taken Danzig. But after training with Hughes, I think we're going to see a Tommy Spear who can come up and do some things. So anyways, throughout today and tomorrow, today being Thursday, tomorrow being Friday, of course, I'm going to break down the finale card, which is now official. The fighters not on it are Joey Scarola, for obvious reasons, and Blake Bowman because of his torn ACL. Also not on it is... Well, no, that's it. Those are the only two not on it. And Jonathan Goulet, a Canadian welterweight who's fought in the UFC a couple times, will be on it now. I'm also going to break down the TUF cast with a video talking about all 17 fighters, what I think about the future, what I think about their skills. From what I've heard, for those of you who don't, go to SureDog.com. Blake Bowman's on there, and he is now talking a fair bit about what the training sessions were like, breaking down the skills a little bit more for us, and guys who I think have the potential to remain in the UFC, who's probably not UFC material, at least at the moment. You never know in the future, but I mean, Marcus Davis certainly wasn't UFC material after TUF 2. Look where he is now. He's a top 10 UFC welterweight, not worldwide welterweight, but still. So rate, comment, subscribe. I'll also have a video in regards to a very, very rude message I got. I'm not going to say names. You know who you are, who sent me the message. A bit of an attack on me, a bit of an attack on my views that the UFC is not the be and the everything of MMA. Which, okay, I'm thinking, tough noob, but normally I'm a little nicer, but this guy was truly a jerk. Anyways, rate, comment, subscribe, preferably no flamers. Later, see you tomorrow.